All right, so welcome everybody to the ISSA August 2020 chapter meeting. That's a heck of a mouthful there. So to start off, I want to say congratulations to Mike and Anna Hatcher. They like today they had their child, so congratulations to them. And
Are you
no, I'm not presenting. I'm just gonna get the meeting started.
okay. I
So
thought you were.
for any of you that are new, this is no. So these are our board members. If you have any questions, just reach out to them. Our president, Nia Lucky, and William Ogle, send them all the questions. Every single one.
All of them. Please.
So, now communications, that is me. I'm a little bit of a hub, so if you can't get a hold of somebody, just let me know. I will text them, Slack them, LinkedIn them, Facebook them, everything, just so we could get them to answer your questions. All right, so our next upcoming event is the ISSA meeting for September. We have Back to Basics with Sean McDonald, career advice from Tech Systems. So you could boo there, Brian, if you'd like. And we have a speaker, Tiffany Alford. She's paving waves out there. She's a Fayetteville Tech, I believe a student or a graduate. And she's also an ambassador for Red Hat. So look forward to hearing about her experience and what she'd like to share with us. All right, and tonight's speakers is Bryan Bessette from Apex Systems and Noreen Njoroge from Cisco. And she's a mentor and a huge advocate for information security and mentoring throughout everything, really. She is also in other nonprofits benefiting like.
Yeah, she's on the national board for the WISSAS, which is the Women in Cybersecurity. I want to believe she just announced that she's on the international or national board now. So she is very well connected and one of my mentors. So I'm really glad she has taken the time tonight to join us.
I'm very excited about that. I did hear one of her webinars that she did. She was interviewed, and I was motivated just from her from hearing her speak. So that is all I have, and I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Brian.
Sure.
Take it from here.
Yeah, absolutely. So good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for listening to me talk. I hate public speaking, first of all. So if you have any questions, I like to talk fast because I'm from New England. Everybody says that. So feel free to cut me off at any time with any questions. But yeah, just to start off.
Where in New England?
From Rhode Island originally, about 35, 40 miles from Boston.
Awesome. I'm from Connecticut. That's my only question.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. So yeah, I've been with Apex Systems for actually just turned 3 years now. I started out kind of brief, about a year supporting Cisco, and now I mainly support cleared roles for different clients that we have in Fort Bragg, as well as some other network and security infrastructure kind of overall positions in Raleigh as well that are mainly non-cleared. With Apex Systems, obviously, Carlos kind of mentioned it. We're a staffing firm. We do compete with the likes of Tech Systems, Insight Global's another big one. So that's kind of what we do is we're a staffing firm. We are the second largest staffing firm in the country. So we have 70 offices across the country. So when I talk to people not only about local opportunities, but really opportunities across the country because people want to move different places and whatnot. But yeah, so that's kind of what I do. Again, mainly infrastructure. The way our business is set up is I'm a technical recruiter, so I actually talk to everybody. So I do everything from actually sourcing people and kind of talking to them about their background, what they're looking for. But I also set them up for interviews. I get all the interview feedback. I extend the offers, and then I do all the HR stuff on kind of the back end, everything from running a security clearance, paperwork and stuff like that to an actual background check. So that's kind of what I do. And our Raleigh office has been here. We're over by PNC Arena. We've been around for about 10 years in this area. We're actually the third office from, Apex that ever started. So in terms of, positions that I work with, I kind of mentioned I work with both cleared and non-cleared positions. So some of the clients that I work with in Fort Bragg are Arma Global is a big one, GDIT, Booz Allen Hamilton, SAIC, Verizon, Leidos, CACI, and I currently have contractors with all of those companies. And up in Raleigh, we work with, obviously those companies that have business up here as well, but a lot more companies too. I would say Verizon, Wells Fargo, CSRA, now GDIT are some big ones up here that I work with as well that have a lot of, everywhere from like help desk opportunities to, senior level architects. So, kind of typical positions that I do support. It's like I said, everything from help desk all the way up. Majority what we see is network administrators, network technicians, help desk folks, systems administrators. I usually see more security engineers than security analysts in terms of what kind of positions that I see. In terms of certifications, and this is a big one I harp on, and I try to talk about it very quickly in a conversation with the candidate. If you have a clearance, that's awesome. Even if you don't have any IT experience, we can usually find you an opportunity. You're probably looking at help desks to go in because a lot of the employers that we work with are pretty tough on exactly what they want in a candidate. So a lot of the times they'll say, hey, they have the clearance, but they need this certification, and that's always a CompTIA Security Plus. We do offer resources for people that can actually work for us that will help pay for your certification. We do a training program where we do a class for 2 weekends out of every single month, where we actually pay for the actual instructors to come in, and it's all virtual, right? So you can do it anywhere across the country. And that's like a $1,300 credit that we take on because obviously we want to place you in an opportunity. And at the end of the day, to be honest, make a little bit of money right from that placement. So that's kind of how our business works. The biggest obstacle obviously I see is besides the Security Plus in terms of certification is clearance. The government about 3 or 4 years ago made it a lot harder for us to have process people for a clearance. Just because they were seeing that there was a lot of investigations being run on people that essentially never started the job, which is, I don't know if you know, but there's a huge backlog with security investigations right now. So it's kind of tough to actually process you, for a clearance. However, it can be done. And there are certain clients that we work with are willing to process someone from, say, a secret level clearance all the way up to like a TSSCI type clearance, which is, the highest level. In terms of, positions and stuff like that, I probably should have mentioned this earlier. But if you don't really have any IT experience, we work with everybody, right? Everybody that's interested in IT, I like to talk to people about kind of different verticals that you can go into. It's always best to start at help desk level positions where, there's not a lot of clients that we work with that'll say, hey, I want to hire an entry level person into being a security analyst, right? Because they don't understand how kind of the networks work, how everything works together. So kind of getting that basic experience and starting off in like a help desk role where you're mainly doing user support, working with Windows, Active Directory, technologies like that is kind of the way to go there. So I always say, I can't tell you how many candidates come up to me and say, security, I want to go into security. Obviously security, I think is, it's blowing up, right? It has been. And it's going to be, I think, a leader in IT in terms of, what people do. If not already. But I think that, getting that help desk network kind of experience and then going into a security role from there is a lot easier. And it's a lot easier for that client to say, hey, we know this person is a good performer. They know what they're doing. They know how our network and our environment works. And now we can move them into a, security analyst type role. So I've just been talking for a few minutes here. Does anybody have any questions before I move on to next topics?
Hey, Bryan, are you sharing screen?
I am not. I do not have a PowerPoint. I'm not a big PowerPoint fan.
I was just double checking because all I saw was a black screen and I guess there's a finger running around there, so I didn't know if you were sharing something there.
I don't think so. No, I don't think that's me. But I guess if there's no questions, I'll kind of move on to my next.
I do have a question. I was just waiting for
Yeah.
Carlos to finish. So I heard you mentioned you look for people that want to go into the networking and what was it? What is it? Security engineering and help desk and everything like that. One of the things that I didn't hear you say was anything in reference to somebody that's experienced, that is looking for something different, such as somebody that wants to go into governance and, sort of like governance, risk compliance type of thing. Do you, would Apex have anything of such available? Because I understand that you are a staffing company and you have ties to all these other companies. So I was wondering if any other companies that you deal with had such positions.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're talking about more like security audits, if I got that right? Audits and compliance?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, exactly.
Yep. Yeah. So we do see that a lot. We actually have. Yeah.
Correct.
Go ahead. I think somebody was that Carlos? Oh, okay. So
No, my mic was muted.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, so basically we did have about 5 or 6 compliance type positions just open. We see them a lot with banks, and I mainly see those up in the Raleigh area. So we can definitely talk about different opportunities. And if, in that case, I don't really have anything available right now in kind of security audits, compliance in that kind of field. But we can definitely talk further about, of course, I can share my email and everything at the end. Just about different opportunities, and I can definitely keep an eye out for you. That's, I guess, a misnomer. We don't always have 30 of one type of position. We don't, right now I don't have 30 architect positions open. It's kind of whatever the client needs at the time. So we do see waves of different positions coming open and closed. So I can tell you different parts of the year will have very different things. I have very heavy infrastructure stuff right now. A lot of, and it's kind of different. I have some developer stuff, but I have network engineers, always looking for network administrators, systems engineer and administrators. So it's kind of just whatever comes open. At the beginning of this year, it was all very heavy security. I had probably 10 security positions open at any one time, opening and closing. So it just really depends on, what comes open. So I can't say I have anything right now, but we can definitely talk, and I can definitely grab your resume and we can definitely talk to some clients about you in the future. So I guess I will move on to something more interesting, I think, just because that's kind of a background of what I do. What I think is more interesting is going over like resume help and things like that, just because I think I read resumes for a living, right? And it can become obviously tedious, but there's resumes that quote unquote pop off the page are definitely great, but you don't want them to be kind of gaudy, for lack of a better word. So I would just say kind of simple, your name at the top, kind of go into your skills, your education at the top, and then go right into employment from there. And I can definitely share, I have a good resume of a network engineer that I hired that currently works for me that he had a really great resume. But you always want to put a brief intro, like on top of it, right below your name, saying, I'm a U.S. Army veteran security analyst with 5 years of IT experience, right? That kind of, to me and to other recruiters and to hiring managers, that says, hey, this is what, this candidate is, right? What kind of position that they're looking for. This is their background. And I know that you have 5 years because a lot of companies will have these requirements of, hey, you need to have 3 years of experience, right? So obviously that would meet that for that particular position. But that's what I really like is an intro on the top, and that's kind of what I would suggest. And then definitely be ready to talk about yourself and anything that's going to be included on your resume, whether it's in skills or actually in the positions. That's going to be fair game. So I actually see and I know Cisco does this a lot too, is if they, an interviewer sees something on the resume that they say, hey, that's kind of interesting, that's a little bit outside the box, what is your experience with this, right? And, I've seen it before where, somebody just said, I just kind of put that on my resume because I'm interested in it. That's not, what they want to see. If it's on your resume, it's fair game. They may ask you some technical questions about it. Again, I've seen that a lot from Cisco in particular, which is obviously a great company, and they do a lot of interviews. So in terms of, we want to see specifics, I think both managers and recruiters. I don't want to see something like worked with Windows, right? Because that's not specific enough. A lot of managers would look at that and say, I don't know what that is. I'm not going to, look at that person, versus someone that says, their resume's in front of them that says, I worked with 12 servers in my current job, Windows Server 2016, in a virtualized and on-premises environment, right? For example, they want to see, actual specifics, whether that's VMware, Cisco networking. You can actually say I work with Catalyst switches or whatever it may be. They want to just see specifics because that's going to help you land the interview at the end of the day. And then I would say working with a recruiter such as myself, I kind of mentioned, we look at resumes first, as we want to see at least a pretty good resume with some keywords in there that we like to see, because, like I always tell candidates, first things first, it's a resume review on each side. It's me looking at your resume, and then it's also the manager looking at your resume and saying, yeah, I want to interview this person. And obviously the chances are better that, they want to interview you if you have a great resume, but also if we personally, recruiters, account managers, which is kind of, more the client facing side than myself. They actually work directly with the hiring managers. They're the ones that, they'll look at your resume and they'll actually request the interview. So if there's a good relationship that we have with that hiring manager, there's a greater chance that you can land the interview and, of course, the actual job. So what I would say is definitely paramount for all candidates in the market is when a recruiter reaches out to you, and I'm sorry, I'm sure you all get kind of bombarded sometimes with recruiters like myself. There's 1,000 companies out there. You kind of, I always say work more with a local company, the company that that you've heard of, that other people have worked for, that you can ask them, hey, what was your relationship with that company? I kind of mentioned a few: Tech Systems, Select Group, Apex. Those are all companies that are very large, well-established companies that, have the resources to, get you anything you need, training resources and things like that, but will also go to bat for you as a candidate. And they're not just going to drop you off and say, hey, here's your first day, have a great time, and you'll never hear from them again. None of us really want that. So, yeah, that's kind of what I would say. And usually just an aside, we have what's called an MSP, kind of between us and the client. I know Cisco has one, for example. And basically how they work is we sometimes submit the resume in the system. So when you hear a recruiter say, hey, I need the last 4 of your social, the last 3 of your social, and the month and day of your birth, that's to put you through the MSP system. And then the manager selects you in their system and says, yep, I want to interview this person. And that's how they kind of create your ID, your credentials. They track your interview history and things like that. So if somebody asks you that, that's kind of normal. But that sometimes we don't, on our side, on the staffing side, we don't have as great of a relationship with that manager if it's through an MSP where somebody's asking you again, what's your last 4 of your social or whatnot. Just because if, I can work with a manager and say, hey, when do you want to interview this candidate? Would you want to interview them tomorrow or maybe next week? It's a lot easier done kind of just talking with them directly than through a system, of course. So that's kind of what I would say with working with a recruiter. Does anybody have any questions for me of working with a recruiter? Any funny stories, any weird stories?
I have a question referring to this. What did you call it? MSP or whatever?
An MSP, yeah. It's called a managed service provider. So there are, Accenture, I think, is one. There's definitely a lot out there. I don't really work with MSPs too much. I kind of submit that over to my account manager, and they'll put a candidate in the MSP. But that's kind of what an MSP does. It's basically there, and it's obviously, like I said, you guys sometimes get bombarded with different staffing firms and stuff like that. It's pretty much how they ensure on the other side that the manager isn't having that happen to them when obviously we're all busy, we all have full-time jobs, and Sometimes hiring is 10% of what they do. They don't want to have 1,000 candidates flood their inbox from different staffing firms and different firms that they've never worked with before too. So that's kind of the MSP will what they call shortlist candidates, which means shortlisted means that they reviewed your resume, you fit with kind of what the manager's looking for, and then they submit you over to the manager. And they kind of make that short list of candidates. So say if 50 candidates get submitted, by all these different firms, maybe 10 will get to the manager that are the best 10. And I say the best 10 because sometimes they're not the best 10. And that's, again, why we like to work with the manager when we can, because, if we can say, hey, in my position, right, I've been doing this for a few years now, I kind of know what I'm looking for. And I know a lot about candidates. When I talk to them, I know very, specifics. I can say to this manager, hey, this person, was a former special ops, person that, worked in the command before. They know all your systems. They know the environment. That's kind of hard to say in just a resume, right? Unless the manager actually sees it, but sometimes you can't really put that in there. So does that answer your question at all?
Kind of, sort of, because one of the reasons why my question arose was in reference to you talking about
Sure.
the last four. You said something about last four and date of birth and stuff like that. So I'm trying to figure out, how did they get that information? I mean, what criteria does a person fall under for you? Because with everything that's going on, because I'm not going to give my last four or my date of birth to anybody that's not willing to hire me. So how do they even get that information?
So that's something that I would talk to you about. And if you were a great fit for the position and we had a great conversation, I kind of know a lot about your background, what you're looking for, and say I had a IT analyst, security, audit type position available. I would say, hey, I have this opportunity with Wells Fargo. It's available right now. This is what the pay is. This is, it's a full-time position. All these different, things about the position, where it is, of course. And, and basically after that, I would get your resume and then I would get those details from you, just because I would have to put you through their MSP, vendor management system, so that the manager could go in and select you for an interview if they're interested in you. So it is normal, and there's certain, I will say the bigger companies, it's very normal. All of them pretty much do that. Your Cisco, General Dynamics, Wells Fargo, companies like that, Verizon, it's very normal for them to do that. I always suggest if you're a little bit unsure of kind of who you're talking to on the recruiter side, you can ask to speak with their account manager. Or someone else that they work with that actually works with the client directly, maybe just talk to the manager yesterday or something like that. I always suggest that. And I loop in my account managers when someone's a little bit unsure about the position or my company or whatever it may be.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So I would always, interview tips for everyone. I would, if it's a video interview, obviously it's with COVID, we've seen a skyrocket in amount of video interviews. I always like a video interview just because there's some clients that like to just do a phone call interview and they'll do a 30-minute or an hour phone call. And sometimes it's kind of hard to, actually see the environment, kind of learn more about it if you're just talking to into your phone, right, instead of actually seeing the person. But definitely try to have your camera set up beforehand. You want to make sure that's working. It's fine to use your phone. I know I get that question a lot. I don't have a laptop or my laptop doesn't have a camera on it. It's okay to use your phone. Just make sure that you're dressed professional. You're up against a wall or something, but you can do that. So, and I kind of in terms of the actual interview style, it will really just depend on what the manager wants to do. But I always say, exchange pleasantries, thank them for their time, especially in the beginning. And if it's a panel, right, they're getting a bunch of people together to talk to you. So they're taking time out of their day. So definitely thank them for that. And use first names when you can, say, hey, Carlos, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Thanks for taking the time. And I'm definitely interested in talking to you more about the position because I think it's, it may be of interest to me to join your team, something like that. And then you always want to have, I usually say 4 to 5 questions at the end of the interview. So you always want to ask if you never get an answer to something, Say if I go into a job and I want to know how big is the team, right? Is it 15 people? What does a typical day look like? Another good question is, in my first 30 days, what do you expect? How long is the training period, right? You want to know all those things going in just so you can make an informed decision. A lot of people will have, 4 to 5, maybe even more jobs, especially if they're in the job market that they're kind of interested in or interviewing with, or just putting out the feelers and things like that. So you just want to know all that information so that you can compare different companies and kind of what they're looking for, but also you want to know about that environment because you're going to be in that environment. So that's kind of how that works, and what I would say about interviewing. Some bad habits and tips that I kind of see a lot. I just had this happen with a candidate that I had interviewed last week. Within the first 2 minutes on the interview, he asked, he was going into basically an application engineering role, kind of like middleware, if anybody's familiar with that. Basically, he went into the interview, and within the first few minutes, he said, "Yeah, I'm really interested in this job, but how easy is it for me to go and be a cloud engineer and go onto another team? Is that bad if I do that within 6 months?" And honestly, I think it's okay, right? If you want to ask about promotion or different teams and stuff like that within companies. But it's a little bit of a problem if the manager is saying, hey, I want to interview this person for this job, and I want to have them be a reliable member of the team and a productive member of the team. And it's hard for them to say, oh, well, this person might just leave in 3 months and go into a different job. So that's what I would say is a no-no. Knowing a lot about that job before you go in, can help you not ask questions like that. Because if hey, this is the actual job, I'm not going to ask that type of question, right? And that's a conversation you can have with recruiters as well, because we're obviously an advocate for you. We want you to succeed. So I usually try to have that conversation with the candidate, and I did, but he did not heed my advice. So he was, in the first couple minutes, unfortunately, the manager was like, "I'm not interested," even though he continued on with the interview. That can happen. So that's what I would say is a no-no. And then you have to know about the client and about the job, and that goes again on the recruiter. I like to tell everybody everything I possibly know about the client because it gives you more information going into it. You want to know. We see this all the time. We have somebody interview and they're in play for 3 spots with my company, right? And they interview with Booz Allen Hamilton, for example, and they go in and they don't know anything about the company. You want to know basic facts about the company, who they support, and things of that nature. You don't have to obviously know. You're not going to know little things about team size and who the manager is, who the team lead or the technical lead is. You're not going to know that, but it shows interest on your part to the manager if you say, "Hey, I know this about I know you guys moved to Fayetteville 5 years ago. I'm definitely interested in being part of a growing team, right? Things like that are definitely good to know." I kind of already mentioned that, putting something on your resume you don't have experience with, that's definitely a big no-no. You can definitely put things on your resume, self-study for, AWS, right? That's absolutely fine to put on there because, people understand that you don't really have experience with it yet, but you're interested in it and you're learning about it. That's completely fine. That's very different from saying, under skills, AWS, and somebody asks you about it and, oh, I don't really have any experience with it. That's kind of very different there. And then you always want to be pretty precise on interviews. I will see people that even if they know it super, super well, if they get asked a technical question, you always want to be pretty precise. You don't want to be really long-winded because people, and I'm sure I'm getting a little long-winded myself, but you kind of check out what someone's saying. I think that, attention span, it's probably 30 seconds of, you're listening to every word. And then after that, it kind of trails off with what you hear and what you do. So that's something, I would say don't be really long-winded. A big problem that I see and sometimes is rescheduling. It's 100% fine to reschedule an interview. Just, know sometimes at the back of, that recruiter's mind or the manager who's interviewing you or the technical lead who's interviewing you, sometimes if somebody reschedules, especially if it's right before the interview, I actually had a reschedule today of someone that they did reach out to me at 10:30 and said, "Hey, I'm super busy at work. I can't do the 12 o'clock interview." That's fine. Excuse me. That's completely fine. Something like, we'll have interviews where people will back out of the interview 15, 20 minutes before. that kind of shows potentially that you're not really interested in the opportunity. And you may not, show some good faith actually as an employee. So a lot of managers will say, I don't really want to have that person rescheduled for an interview sometimes, or they're really, second guessing you even before you talk to them. So that's something that I would say, you don't really want to do that. Again, one reschedule, that's probably fine. But if you go, reschedule twice or 3 times, a lot of companies remember that stuff, and it's not like they keep a little black book of everybody that's interviewed. That's not the case at all. But some managers will remember people, especially if it's a small market, for what they're looking for, right? So security engineers, for example, Cisco looking for, right? If someone's interviewed in the past, sometimes they will remember that person and said, oh yeah, they said something strange on the interview, or, I have a reference from them that isn't very good. And sometimes that will really prevent you from getting the job. And I think biggest thing, it's okay to ask for feedback from recruiters. We're obviously, again, an advocate for you. So if there's anything that you ask us that, we don't know, my answer is always, well, let me go find that answer for you. And I try to get that in a timely manner. Most of the time, if we don't have feedback, it's mainly because the manager is probably interviewing other people, or they're really busy, depending on what they're doing that day or that week. So it can be a little annoying sometimes, because there are companies that kind of act a little bit slower than others as well. I'll throw Leidos under the bus a little bit. In Fort Bragg, sometimes they take 3 or 4 weeks for feedback for a candidate, which I know is crazy. Basically, if someone interviews, how do they remember, right? 3 or 4 weeks later, how they interviewed. So that's something that we try to, avoid as a recruiter as well. We try to push for quick feedback, and that's really an advantage of working with a recruiter as well, because we try to get quick feedback for you, because we all know the internet can be a black hole. You can apply for 100 positions. My brother just graduated from college, and he applied for probably 300 or 400 positions, entry level, and he heard from like 4 or 5, which obviously isn't a great ratio. So sometimes working with a recruiter, we kind of push for that feedback, and we have that relationship with that manager so that we can get that feedback for you in next steps. That's pretty much all I would say. I think I've rambled on enough. Does anybody have any questions for me at all?
Hey, Brian. Just got a question here.
Yeah.
We do have active duty personnel that are transitioning. What's the best advice that you would give them in order to get, make that transition a lot smoother for them, and, just have the best success in that process?
Absolutely. So I would say that I work mainly with people who are transitioning, in a year or year and a half, and they kind of know that what they're kind of looking for. And obviously they have a background of, I want to continue in this, or, they were, for example, a mechanic, and they want to say, I want to get into IT, right? And I didn't have a chance to do that in the Army or whatever branch, they served in. But I would just tell people that going for certifications is huge. Obviously that Security Plus that I mentioned, that's the baseline certification. If you have a clearance and you're working, in a government position, that is absolutely required, especially in Fort Bragg. There's other bases that don't require as much, but in Fort Bragg, especially working with a TS cleared, top secret cleared position, you do need it. Biggest thing I would say is some people, they'll put their resume online and on Indeed or clearance jobs or Monster or ZipRecruiter, and they're like, well, I'm not really getting a lot of feedback, and sometimes it's just because a lot of managers don't really want to talk to you until about 2 to 3 months before your actual transition, your terminal leave date starts. So that's something that we fight with all the time, because a lot of managers say, I have this open position, somebody just left, somebody else is working overtime, until somebody else fills that spot. So most of the spots that we get, 95% of the positions, they want somebody in that chair immediately, right? So it's kind of hard for people who are transitioning sometimes to say that, I want to put myself out there because I don't know what the future holds. I'm looking for jobs to land a job now, but I can't start in 6 months. You're probably not going to get hired. So just ride it out. It can be a little bit of a struggle. Just obviously, if you start a little bit early, it can be hard because a lot of companies will not want to hire you yet. So I usually say, with candidates I talk to, and they're like, I can start in February of 2021. I usually reach out to them towards the end of the year, about maybe 8-10 weeks before they can start, because then I can get them interviewed, hired, and started with all their paperwork and stuff like that in the background. Another thing I would say to everyone that's transitioning, if there's anybody here on the call, you want to know where your clearance stands, because I've seen too many times where the military, where somebody needs basically what's called a PR, a periodic reinvestigation, and they'll go to transition and suddenly their clearance is not active anymore, especially a few months after they transition, if they're still looking for an opportunity, if they take time off, things like that. So just get in touch with your security office and just make sure that your clearance looks good. If you do need a periodic reinvestigation to go through that process again, that they can do that for you. Of course, I can do that as well, but there's some people that I've seen transition out that, I'll throw an example. I had a guy transition out whose unit was breached like 2 years ago. So basically his clearance in JPass, which is the system where clearances are held, said that he had an incident report on his clearance. And all it was a security incident, and they put a block on everyone's clearance in the whole unit. And we were able to kind of take that off for him, and he had no idea, right? And that was preventing him a little bit from getting a job. So that's what I would say. Go after certifications are huge. Everybody loves, managers love to see certifications because it just shows that you love your field, you love what you do, you want to grow, and then your clearance as well. And just be ready to, obviously, even a year out, you're probably not going to find an opportunity, an employer that says, yeah, in a year from now, you have a spot, you have a job, because a lot of things can change. So companies don't really like to do that. Sorry if that's long spiel again.
No worries, Bryan. We like hearing stuff, so that's why we have these meetings to get more information. So Absolutely. If you're not talking, we're not learning. And if we're not learning, we're getting stagnant.
Sure.
So anybody else have any more questions for Bryan? Okay, I don't have anybody speaking up. You can.
I'm just typing in my email into the chat. So if there's anybody that would like to talk to me about positions or everything from resume feedback to what can I expect, transitioning, everything like that, everything under the sun. I work with like I said, I talk to people all day long, look at resumes all day long. So I've seen it before. So if you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. It should be in there now. So, yeah.
Are you on LinkedIn?
I am, yes.
All right.
Absolutely. Feel free to shoot me a connect, and we can get connected that way as well.
Awesome.
Bryan, that's an awesome presentation. I really enjoyed it. My name is Noureen Njoroge. I work at Cisco Systems. I'm supposed to be the next presenter, But I don't know. It's just dead quiet here. So, and then Carlos gave me his
too.
credentials, and it's it logged me as him. So when I speak, it shows it's Carlos, but I don't know whether I'm supposed just to go.
Right now.
Yes, but I like passionate recruiters like you. That was
Absolutely.
nice. That's nice. Yeah, as a person who recruits, I hire for my team. I mean, some recruiters can be interesting, you know. And
Yeah.
I like the passionate ones because you can go back and forth that dialogue conversation and get the best candidate for the job.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great. So I don't know where Nia.
Hi, Noreen.
Tell us. Hello, Zalia. How you doing?
Good. How are you? You know,
Good.
I like the terminology that you use for recruiters. The non-passionate one. What was the word you used? I like that politically. What was the word you used?
I said, what did I call it? I can't remember. I come up with words impromptu.
Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, I was like, I forgot. I don't know why I forgot, but I was like, I chuckled a little after hearing it. Because Noreen is right, Bryan. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of recruiters such as yourself. Like pretty much, the way you explain yourself. I've been unfortunately a victim of those recruiters that are not passionate or don't have a technical background or just plain old don't even know what the manager is looking for, let alone to even,
Exactly.
ask me what I'm looking for. Because it's like sometimes when you look at those job descriptions, those job descriptions can be very vague. And I have to actually tell the recruiter, okay, I have to actually point it out to them because I'm not somebody, for example, for me that's in the job market, I'm not looking for an entry-level job.
Right.
So, I know that you're saying three different things here. You're looking for three different people, which in my opinion, you're looking for your unicorn, which I'm not,
Right.
I am not. Yes, I know enough about each and every single, area, but I don't want to do all of those areas. I want to do what I'm looking for.
Right.
So Noreen is correct. There's not too many recruiters such as yourself, and I definitely want to reach out to you so that we can continue our conversation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, I am one of those people where, because I've been pretty much been given the runaround by other recruiters, I was put in a situation where, my military contract was ending and I didn't have nothing else available lined up. And I didn't want to be without a job. So when there was an opportunity for another military job came, I took it. Not because that's what I wanted to do, only because that was available at the time.
Right.
So, I have a whole nother year. So
Absolutely. Okay.
yeah. So that's
Absolutely. So I can learn about you a little bit more and about your background, and we can definitely talk about opportunities.
all right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. Is this where I start presenting, or are we?
Well, Noreen, it's fair to say that.
I lost connection for a second there, and so thanks, Bryan, for your time and presenting. We're gonna go ahead and take about maybe 5 minutes to let Noreen get set up and be able to share her screen with us, and we'll go ahead and start in about 5 minutes. That work for everybody? Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought I lost connection again. Y'all just messing with me right now.
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right, let's go ahead and take a 5-minute break. And Noreen, if you could go get your screen shared and all that good stuff, and we'll start in about 5, and it'll be on you.
Okay, cool. So that will be at 6:14 or at 6:15.
Yes.
You didn't answer a question.
What she asked? I don't know why I'm getting some breaking up here.
No, Noreen, 6:15 works.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
fine.
Okay.
We're just taking a 5-minute break. Come on.
Alrighty. Let me share my screen. Can you all hear me? Somebody?
Yes, we can.
Good. Let's go here. And let me know if you can see my screen, please.
We can see your screen.
Awesome. All right. Good evening, everyone. Humbled and excited to be here just to share with you and even to network, and hope everybody's doing well, safe amidst these uncertainty times, but we'll remain resilient, right? My name is Noureen Njoroge. I'm a cybersecurity consultant engineer here at Cisco. A little bit about me. Graduate from University of Massachusetts and MIT, master there in information technology and engineering, and then went to MIT, did my cybersecurity. And then other than education and working at Cisco, I like giving back to the community. National board member for the Women in Cybersecurity organization. I'm also an advisory board member for the Spark Mindset and Africa Cyber Defense Forum. Both of those two, they focus mostly in helping middle school, high school kids in digital literacy and just elevating them in their education. And then I'm also the founder of Mentor and Mentee Women in Cybersecurity group on LinkedIn and the global mentoring program here at Cisco. Most of my attendees, I think Zalia is here. She joins, she usually joins one of my meetings once in a while. And then I'm also the president of the Women of Women of Cybersecurity here in North Carolina. One of my favorite quotes, honestly, is "We rise by lifting each other." I cannot do it alone. You cannot do it alone, but together we can rise up. I also like doing public speaking where we could be able to attend conferences. The last speaking I did was in RSA in February. Also awarded as the cybersecurity champion here at Cisco, again, because I guess I give back a lot and help others in this career. So I'm excited to be here, and that's just a little bit about me. And this is my Twitter handle in case you feel inclined to reach out to connect with me. It would be good to stay in touch. I like connecting with people. So here I am today, would like to talk to you and share with you about cyber resiliency post-COVID-19. Now that we're in this situation of COVID-19, what next, right? Before we didn't know it was coming, but now it's already here. So we have to always think what next, because we're already dealing with it right now. So we already know what now, right? Wash their hands, wear your mask, and what have you. But after it's all said and done, what next, right? Or how can we be resilient if we ever experience such in the future, right? And for organizations and both individuals. So we'll go over, just do a definition, and then I'll provide organizational cyber resilience. And then we as cybersecurity professions, how can we remain cyber resilient as our own, right? And then how do we move from cybersecurity into a collaborative resilience architecture? And then I'll have time for Q&A. Trust me, I don't have so many slides. We'll go quick and then open it for questions. Okay. So what is cyber resilience? I like to call it, to say or define personally. Maurice, do you have something to say? Sorry, I can hear echo from you. Oh, okay. My definition of cyber resilience. All right, somebody muted me, somebody unmute me.
I'm sorry, that was me. I thought my microphone was on and I accidentally muted you. Okay,
no problem.
Sorry.
That's all right. Again, there we go. WebEx resiliency, right? So back to the conversation, right? What's cyber resiliency? It's the ability for an organization to prepare, respond, and speedily, remember, speedily, I even put it on bold, recover when a cyber attack occurs. Because you want to recover as quickly as you can when it's down. Remember, it's not a matter of if, it's when. And when that happens, you really want to recover so quickly. And I want to give this through using this analogy of the swans metaphor, right? I don't know if either of you have ever had this analogy or metaphor being used, but most of the time when I'm doing tabletop exercises with the C-suite management of organizations, we use this metaphor quite often. We'll start with the black swan, which is a very rare creature. Hardly would you see it, in any lake, pond, or whatever. We actually thought that it didn't exist until maybe 18th century when somebody spotted it, right? And that they're still debating, the philosophers right now are still debating, is COVID-19 considered like a black swan? They're very rare in nature, right? It reflects the unpredictable extreme events, for example, like 9/11, the data center loss we experienced a couple years, 3 years ago, right? This one was supposed to be 2008, was supposed to, sorry, I don't know why that went there. This is supposed to say 2008 financial crisis. Remember when we had the housing market down? Now we're seeing an uptick of ransomware attacks, right? Maybe it can classify as a black swan. We don't know, but it is what it is there. Before we used to worry about like DDoS attempts, denial of service attack, and what have you. Now ransomwares are on the increase. So they're slowly moving out of now the black swan, and maybe they'll move to the gray or the white. And then the gray one, right? This one reflects the known but unlikely widespread of security impacts. They're less common. Such include like incidents triggered by known events, like security breaches, Hurricane Sandy we had here, North Carolina. They're unlikely to spread much security impact like this would do, right? Like when you lose your whole data center, or if you had a ransomware attack, your whole network is down. And then we have a white swan, right? This reflects the certainty of security impacts which are known and understood. You already know, if it occurs, you already know how to triage and fix it, and you're back into business, right? An example would be maybe application outage or a DDoS attack, right? Where you can go, if it's a DDoS, then you can reroute your traffic, and your high bandwidth utilization, gets rerouted and splitted. Split tunneling VPN, instead of everything going through one fire hose pipe, distribute that network. So if one network VPN is down, the rest are not down, right? So that's commonly known. And this metaphor is used a lot even when you're having like disaster drills or a disaster plan where you guys are simulating an attack. And depending on the codes, maybe if you called your SOC, Security Operations Center, and you just mentioned, instead of saying, because you don't know whether the attacker is inside or outside, right? So people use a metaphor and say it's a black swan, and then oh, okay, this is what we're going through. It's a gray swan. Similar like in the hospital when they say code blue, code white, whatever, right? Those analogies, and you never know when it may occur. Look at this side. So when commonly we use the confidential integrity, right? This, it's happening. The CIA triad over here. Information security, all these are known. Cybersecurity, it covers all this we know, right? The complex and the advanced persistent threat actors. Those are already known, right? Because they are classified. You see APT38, you already know these are the ones after this. You see APT39, these are the ones who are causing maybe the Maze ransomware and what have you, right? But cyber resiliency helps an organization to be better protected for those unknown or unseen impacts that may come onto your network. So for every organization, it's very good to have a cyber resilience plan, which is able to assist you to be able to know those unforeseen and unpredictable, you're protected, you're covered, never be caught unawares at all, right? And few recommendations as to what organizations can do to be cyber resilient post-COVID-19. The ones I'm going to give here are not full, the list is not fully exclusive, but these are the ones I've seen engaging with clients, the gaps that were missing, right? Before COVID and before everybody went to remote global workforce. I recommend them usually to deploy external perimeter protection, right? User access, who has access to this and who has access to that. Limit to that. and then implement an endpoint data collection and analysis to identify unauthorized activity. A lot of people are working from home, so you don't even know who's accessing your network from wherever they are. Again, you trust but verify, right? Implement network access control, that protocol to authenticate and validate devices, and then enforce security policies before permitting them to connect to a corporate office or remote offices. This is very crucial because we've seen and had instances in the news or even in the media or in the threat landscape. This was not implemented, and therefore companies suffering a cyber attack or a cyber breach, which we don't want that happen. Another methodology of recommendation, we've seen a lot of organizations now, they're starting to adopt cloud, right? People are a little wary of, migrating to the cloud because there's that uncertainty, right? If you had your local data center, you can drive there, your server is in cage A, cage B, cage C. But now it's moved to the cloud. You can't just drive there, right? But organizations started becoming comfortable and they started doing like a dynamic where some stuff is on-prem and some stuff is on cloud. But with COVID, when COVID hit, a lot of organizations, they started now looking to full transition into full cloud. With cloud services, they offer significant cost, which is cheaper than having your own data center or paying a space on a colo data center. They offer efficiency, resiliency, and potential security benefits over data storage and application hosting alternatives. But when it comes to cloud, it's always good. When I'm having those table talk or dry exercises, we always have to simulate, okay, you've migrated me to the cloud, but I can't access my data. What happened? Who can I call? When did my data go missing, right? Who had access to it? You have to have all that written down on somewhere, documented. Don't just assume because you've migrated to AWS, for example, you're all set. You as the company, you're also responsible for your data. You have to be answerable in case there's an incident breach. Do you have a backup? Yes, the cloud has backup, but do you have your own backup? You always have to be protected and be cyber resilient on-prem as much as you rely on the cloud premises. Another one we recommend is remote workforce. You need to establish VPN. Yes, we've seen high incident of attacks on VPN, but it's still the most at least secure way to have your remote employees be able to connect to your corporate environment. And then you also have to do a deployment through internet protocol, and then secure through each and every employee's workstation. Always highly recommend to review your enterprise, to use your internet-based remote desktop RDP, because this allows remote access of Windows systems and servers, and it's enticing for hackers. We have seen this happen. Recently, we had the Twitter attack, right? RDP access was part of one of the mechanisms that was used to gain access to that. You don't want that open. If they don't need RDP access, you just need to shut it down. Some things are easier said than, and they seem like just basic, simple cyber hygiene. But if ignored, they could cause much havoc. Another one will be to implement an overview cyber incident response plan. You don't want, when that attack has happened, that's when you're starting to wonder, who should I call? Where is our staff located? Refresh and update any disaster plan response plan you have, and then your recovery plans to address the current operation context. This has to be work in progress because some people come and leave. Your processes and procedures also change. So at least you should create on a calendar, just like the way you change your password, maybe in an organization, 45 days, 90 days. You should have somebody who's assigned to make sure that this response plan is up to date every time or quarter for the year within your organization. For this one, this plan over here, I had a situation whereby the customer was underwater, or somebody, we tried to help, but we couldn't reach out the third-party vendor who owned the product. So you have to have that plan implemented. It may seem simple, but it has to be there. Another one would be to secure collaboration tools used in organizations. If you're using maybe virtual reality gamification to keep your employees enticed and encouraged to continue learning. and being safe and secure in their operations. I'm a big advocate for the user education. You have to educate your employees because your employees are your greatest asset. If you don't educate them and they're the first line of your defense, then you're at risk. Make sure you invest in your employees. Last but not least for the organization is the cyber attack financial protection recovery. This is like having an insurance, right? But you have to review your existing insurance coverage, including identifying potential gaps, and then examine new cybersecurity challenges that fit your organization, cyber risk, and strategy. Because the cybersecurity attacks, they're constantly changing, right? So when you wrote your insurance with the insurance company, maybe you covered your data center, but only data that was on-prem. But now that you migrated to the cloud, you may want to review your policy to cover even the data that has migrated to the cloud. And then key factor here, you have to be aware of potential changes in coverage terms and conditions at the renewal of your insurance assets or losses, and changes that claim patterns to post-pandemic. I've read an article where a company was already under ransomware attack, and they had cyber insurance, and the cyber insurance said, we cannot cover because on our coverage, it states you as the individual should be the one reporting to the public that you are under attack. If the attacker goes out there and says, I've hacked company XYZ before you do, then they don't cover. So those are clauses that they should have read before. And at that time, the cyber insurance was not applicable for them. Just like when you have your own car insurance or home insurance, you have to read those fine clauses. Same applies to your business because it's a business for them too, but you always want to make sure that you're getting the best out of it. And here, a picture speaks more than words, right? That resilience management work frame, this is very important for an organization to have and always constantly be reviewing. You want to have your preventative measures, your detection measures, your diagnostics. How do you recover and how do you optimize? Optimization, this is very important going forward. What can you do, right? You can do predictive monitoring, machine learning, unknown become knowns, so that you can be able to practice those disaster recoveries on-prem and off-prem, to be able to know if an attack is coming, how you're going to recover. And another one I've seen in the market, the stakeholder communication is becoming very, very critical, that even if you own a business or you're running an organization, you have third-party vendors who are on your network or you work with. You have to keep them in the loop and keep them updated with what's happening with the organization, and also check with them, because you don't want to inherit any weak or vulnerabilities on your third-party vendors at all. So it's good to have this resilience management framework and constantly review and hire the right people to handle it. So when they say, we're running skill sets of people in cybersecurity, when I bring up this, I'm like, have you hired for somebody to be looking at your network operations? I understand you have a SOC, but Security Operations Center, but who's looking at your risk framework, right? But again, you realize most organizations, they don't even have it. So it's something that they start working on it and they start to fill in those racks for that. We have to bring that to the stakeholders along. Remember, because some policies already, they implemented from top down, right? So you want to be able to get business buy-in, have a resilience goal, right, with your CEOs, and then a technology goal aligned with your firm or your organization. You also want to have measurable key performance indicators. How are we doing as an organization? If right now we were hit with a cyber attack, how quickly will we be able to recover? Do we have redundancy? Are we going to pay the ransom or not pay the ransom? And if we pay the ransom, are we getting our files back or are we not getting files back? If we decide not to pay them, are we going to be able to recover? And if so, is the attacker still on the network? All those have to be answered when you're reviewing your key performance indicators so that you can know how better to protect yourself before or after the attack. And then inoculate your culture within your organization. Security is all about culture. You have to build a security culture in your organization. You can buy all the defense mechanisms and, wheels and bells and whistles of tools. But if you do not have a security culture within your organization, your crown jewels are left wide open to the attackers, because it only takes one employee to click on that phishing link and you're vulnerable from top down or from bottom up. So inoculate a culture of security within your organization. And how do you do this? empowering your employees, educating them constantly, and also educating. I don't mean just give them a PowerPoint slide or some video where they have to click and just click to confirm they finished. No, you can do it by creating like a gamification content where the employees engage, they enjoy playing the game, but they're learning the security metrics and what have you. And by the end of this assessment, the employee was not only engaged, but they learned how to better protect your own organization. And therefore, you've invested in them, and they will invest back into your organization. Now let's talk about us. As cybersecurity professions, we really have to have our own cyber resilience, I call it. And my famous 3 E's are here in front of you. We always have to stay educated. Just because I went to school, go my bachelor's, go my master's, and what have you, that does not mean that's the end of education. We have to constantly keep educating ourselves. The cyber threat landscape is constantly changing, and so we have to do it, my friends. Every day, at least, if it's not reading a blog, listen to a podcast. If it's not listening to a podcast, maybe you're practicing creating a home lab. By all means, do something, right? Educate yourself. In these certain times of resiliency, especially COVID, post-COVID, right? Remember, a lot of people have been let go. And the market out there is going to be who's the best fit for that job. So remember, John Doe was working at a company and they had maybe 10 to 15 years of experience. And then maybe I only have 1 year of experience. We apply for the same job, we go for the interview. But I have only 1 year of experience. I know that's all I have. But John Doe, even though they're laid off, they've been educating themselves, maybe getting a certification, writing blogs, contributing to the community, what have you. When they come to that job interview, they'll be asked the real-time security stuff, right? For me, I'll just stand there and just say, well, I've only had 1 year, maybe I'll still get it. John Doe comes in prepared, I'm not prepared. The employer will go with John Doe. It's unfortunate, but that's what it is. We have to keep educating ourselves. And if you don't know, please, by all means, reach out to people to help you to do that. Also, attending webinars and seminars, that really helps. It adds knowledge value to you. And then gain experience. Even if you don't have a job, the way you can express your experience is, I have hired people in my team where they just graduated, they don't have any experience. And of course, I don't expect them to have any work experience because, for crying out loud, they just graduated college, right? But I always ask them, tell me something you've done to give back to the community, or you've done to the cybersecurity industry or something. And I've had people who have written blogs, right? Those ones, I give them a higher up, and I was like, if you're able to even write up this and share with others, I mean, you're a big asset, because when you come into the team, it's showcased that you're going to be good at documentation and knowledge sharing with the team. So experience doesn't have to be on job, right? Like you're employed, but you can showcase your experience by writing those blogs and updating even your social media profile, especially maybe like LinkedIn, which has become like the recruiting board now, and highlight your skill set and your blogs over there, and ask others to contribute to it. That way you get feedback from others and be able to build more on that. And when you apply for a job, if they ask you what are years of experience for this job, I'm looking for 5 years, but you don't even have a single year, you can say it may be 5 years on paper working for a company, but for maybe 5 years current, right? I've been doing this right now. I'm writing blogs, I'm sharing with the community, I'm staying up to date, and I think I'm the best candidate for that role. And then exposure. Exposure is very key. How do you do this? By building a circle of networks. Build a circle of network. Connect with people who you want to help you get to the next level. I call them your ones, twos, and threes. Your ones are the people you look unto. For example, I want to move to the C-suite, right? I want to be a chief information security or chief security officer. So I've connected with people who are in that level, CIO and CISOs, right? Because I'm learning from them. I'm asking them questions. I'm joining their meetings. I'm brainstorming with them. Those are my ones. And then your twos are my friends like Zalia, who can just tell me, Noureen, or tell me, Noureen, I mean, slow down, man. You cool down your horses and keep it real. You know, you're slacking now. You need to take it, you need those people who tell you as is, right? Noureen, you're not picking up your slack. You're not doing your job. I haven't seen a blog from you. I haven't seen you post anything. Is everything okay? Have that kind of people. And then your threes are people who are looking onto you. Remember, you have to pay it forward, right? Not just being on the receiving end all the time. You have to pay it forward. And whether it's post or pre-COVID or cyber resilience or not, these 3 E's will keep you going. Education, experience, exposures. They've worked for me. I've seen others embrace them, and their career has taken far from there. And cybersecurity, moving from cybersecurity to a collaborative resilience. We are cybersecurity professions, right? We have to build this habit of information sharing. Hogging the information to yourself does not help. By all means, share out there by writing blogs. You can even go to information sharing centers like ISATs or SATs, right? Read what they've posted there. You see something interesting there, reshare it on your medium of communication with your peers, and then put in your analysis, your feedback. Don't just share the article and just leave it there. Share and then put your 2-3 cents on what you think and ask others for input. And then you can also share your knowledge by signing up for speaking engagements. You can be the next presenter here for the next ISSA meeting or in a panel discussion. If you're not comfortable doing it all by yourself, join other panelists, or even volunteer even at schools, middle schools, high schools. Kids are going back to school, but they're having these webinars where teachers are struggling getting kids organized and log into Zoom, putting security measures and what have you. Volunteer to do stuff like that, because together we rise up, right? And my key one is mentor others. I'm a key advocate of mentoring others. Always good to pay it forward, because I know somebody who knows somebody who can open a doors for you, and you may know somebody who can open doors for me. Please, I encourage everybody, just mentor others. Some people say, I don't think I'm a good mentor, I'm qualified, I don't have enough knowledge to mentor others. No, the little that you know is enough for somebody else who has no idea about this industry. I think I'm done. Questions, and we can stay in touch. I want to talk a little bit about the global mentoring program. As I say, mentoring others. When we went on lockdown in March, I realized I like going to conferences and speaking, but I didn't have people to communicate with now that we're in lockdown. But I decided, what can I do to help in this community? Because every time you receive those statistics where they're saying in 2021, cybersecurity will have a shortage of 88% of cyber professionals. It's good we have the statistics and the analysis, but what can we do to change that number? I may not have all the answers to the bells and whistles, but one thing I saw I can participate is creating this global mentoring program where people all around the globe can join, ask questions, be inspired, meet mentors, meet mentees, and together we rise. And with that, my friends, that's the end of my presentation. I'll be quiet and take any questions you may have. Thank you. Let's see.
Hey, Noureen, this is Carlos. I'm actually glad that you brought up the mentoring, because we do have somebody that sent out a chat to me saying that they are looking for a mentor. Yes. Looking forward to have that phone conversation with them tomorrow and see who in our organization can actually better suit them as far as getting a mentor. And I'm actually really happy to be that conduit to our organization. And if somebody doesn't fit them here, if I could reach out to you and see. Now, you said you have a LinkedIn for mentoring?
Yes, I even have a LinkedIn group for mentoring. But if they go to this site where we share all the slides of all presentations we've had, he'll have the person will have access. Actually, let me see. I can show you right now. Let me share the screen because I think it was just sharing the presentation. So this is the link to the website that I shared there. I created this because I found myself, I was repeating myself over and over. So I created this website where I can post everything for people who want to know and mentoring. So over here, if they come here to the mentoring session, our next session is coming this Saturday. We do it every other Saturday. They can click here and join to sign up. I think right now we have 386 people joining, registered, and it's a global thing. So you'll meet people from all across the globe. So you get to know what happened, what cyber attacks are happening in France, what are happening in Chile, in Africa, you know, so your broad set of mindset is wide, right? Than just focusing here, what's happening here in the US. And they can, this is the group here to join a mentoring group on LinkedIn. And we also have a Slack channel where they can communicate with the group. But most important is we have Mentor Spotlight. We have all these mentors available to mentor. So you can read more and find what they do. She's in NIST, National Institute Standards of, I can't remember the T stands for. She's in NIST. This one is in Cisco. And some are global. This one is from Kenya. We have others from UK. We have others from India. We have others from France.
I know
right?
that person with the glasses.
Huh?
I know that person with the glasses.
Which one?
Bottom right.
Oh, here, right?
Hey,
Yeah.
she looks familiar, right?
I know. I don't know who that is.
Don't worry. I'll tell you aside who that is, right? She's very nice, though. And there are very many of them. So
Yeah, that's
feel
Dr.
free.
Mansour right there from University. Yeah, I chat with him on LinkedIn a lot. He has a really heavy presence on LinkedIn.
Dr. Hasib.
Mansour, yes.
Very much so.
Yes,
Was one of my
yes.
first like social media inspirations for how to like
Oh, wow.
frame my LinkedIn, everything.
Yeah. He's very popular.
Yes, he is. Very nice. Very nice. And she's from Nike. She's the VP of security in Nike.
Oh, wow.
And then
These
she's
ladies, I'm just saying.
I know, right? And then she's a VP of security of IoT in Verizon. And then Hash is here in Cisco. And then she's a VP of architecture here at Cisco. She's in India. She's very big, heavy on digital forensics. So if you want to learn digital forensics, she's your lady to go to.
Awesome.
This one, he's good at opening businesses. He has his own company in New York, has survived, been under ransomware attack, came back, after COVID, but company still doing marvelous. So good lessons there. Others are in Kenya. So for those ones who are in Kenya, can reach out to them. Mark is in GRC, Governance, Risk and Compliance. Hash is on also Governance, Risk, Compliance. Nico is also on at Cisco. Nia, you know Nico. And then
Oh, actually,
Lawrence.
I PostEcon last year. Nico's amazing.
Yes. Quite a number. And I think I need to update this one. I don't know why she's here. Fell down here. Quite a number. But more so, there is this, if I go here, maybe on for resources, the mentors can always go here quickly, what certificates they want to take, right? And it's broken down for beginners, specialty, advanced, cloud. But over here, they have free website where they can just go and do learn for themselves. Big one we have is the Cisco Network Academy. We have a lot of courses over there. I think today I uploaded 4 more, which people can learn. And then on the welcome here, I have global mentoring presentation. So if you go here, we have all the slides, PowerPoint slides for every presentation that has ever been hosted, right? I started this thing in March, so we're going to episode 15. We did how to brand yourself to begin. We had somebody from this one, web application, AI, IoT. We reviewed cybersecurity domain, so you can know how to go through it. And then we also discussed a journey into cyber from a non-technical background. Advisor from recruiter. This is very interesting. You can click it, the blue, that means it's a hyperlink. You can click on it and review that PowerPoint slide. She's actually the recruiter at Cisco who does once the third party recruiters find somebody, she's the one who says, yes, you're fit for Cisco, or no, you're not. It's like firewall, right? A firewall rule. Permit traffic, allowed, deny traffic. So she's the main lady. And she did an amazing presentation and gave us her PowerPoint slide. You can download them. You don't need any password or information to get the information from this site. It's open to the public. Then we reviewed the MITRE attack, the NIST framework. This one was presented to us by the VP of Security at NIST. So you're getting very good information. Red team, blue team. I think I did a presentation on that. Same applies to that. And there was the previous one we did OSINT, which was very, very nice. People really liked it. And previous that we did a digital forensic deep dive. It's amazing. I'll encourage everyone to go there and review.
Awesome.
Yeah. Then we have some mentees reviews. People have so many to upload. I haven't had time, but mentors, come back and say what the program has helped. And I have 6 people to go ahead and update here. After this mentoring session, networking is key, right? So connected them with people, and they bypassed going 3 or 4 rounds of recruiting interview. And now they have jobs. So at least this coming Saturday, we have good news. 6 people who had been laid off found a job, which is amazing. So feel free to visit the site. We have podcasts you can listen to, list of cybersecurity initiative. There are so many of them. An advice from a non-technical background, and then Tech Talk Bridge. This was a very nice presentation. Actually, we did here at Cisco and with recruiters. I mean, we're talking about CDW, Google, Amazon, Netflix, all the big Silicon Valley companies. They were in this Tech Talk session. And it's all recorded for you to listen and learn. And they give links and resources, how to apply what they're looking for, how to join their internship, a lot of resources. So I encourage others to review. And let me stop. Let me be quiet because I can talk. Any questions?
It may not be. I'm just curious to see how you feel about zero tolerance networks, zero trust networks, I should say.
Yeah, zero trust.
Trust.
It's funny that you asked that actually, because we just did. Let me show you something. Share back to the screen. Where it says available podcast to listen. I'll show you something. This one here where I said a must listen. I did a podcast here with his name is Andy Ellis. He is he's the CSO, Chief Security Officer at Akamai.
Okay.
One day he went to the office and he was like, he was seated in a boardroom and that's not right here. He was sitting in a boardroom and they asked, does anybody have any questions? Does anybody has anything to say? And he said, yeah, I have something to say. So he stood up and he wrote on the board, let's get rid of, that's him, Chief Security Officer Andy Ellis. Let's get rid of passwords.
Yeah.
And people at him look at him like, what are you talking about? Get rid of passwords, right? You crazy and all that stuff. Well, he said, well,
right.
you always tell us to bring our authentic self to work. And here I am, brought myself authentic. And this is what I'm talking about. Get rid of passwords. And they looked at him as if he was crazy. People threw pens. I mean, listen to that podcast. He narrates the whole story.
Yeah. But it's happening though. I mean, Google is showing us the way. That's the reason why I asked. Google has given us a roadmap to do this. It's expensive.
Yes. It is expensive, but when you hear how it started, it was so fascinating, and you'd encourage a lot of people even to move towards zero trust.
Yeah, I'm a big fan.
It is. It will eliminate a lot of those little, password manager and authentication access and all that stuff. It is great.
I think I'll take a look.
Yeah, it is. But I mean, hearing from the person who built it from, like the industry was looking at him like, what are you talking about? And he explains it how he, and Akamai is big, right? Akamai is big for, they're the ones who even monitor the whole network on the cloud for DDoS, right?
Yeah, I work with them. I support the EPA, and they're one of our failovers.
There we go.
For one of my systems.
Yeah. I like Zero Trust. I've played with it, and I'm trying to convince,
Yeah,
you know.
absolutely.
Yeah. But it takes educating the audience, especially when you start working with the C-suite. You have to really break it down like you're talking to a 7 or 8-year-old. It's not that they don't understand, but it's because you have to break it in a way they can understand and get that buy-in and appreciate the use of new technology, especially for those ones who've been in an organization for so long.
So long.
Yeah,
Right.
and their mindset is not ready for change, right?
Love it. Awesome.
Yeah. Okay. Any other question? And I'll give Nia, give you the slides if anybody does anybody want a copy of the slides or
You could send them to me and I could post them up on our site.
oh okay.
And for anybody that is interested, we have updated the website. So for next month's meeting, you could go ahead and register. Those are the people that will be joining us for the meeting and presenting. Know Before is going to be presenting their product. Tech System is going to be giving us more advice on how to work with their company and how to get those jobs out there. Tiffany Alford, she is a Fayetteville Tech student and also a Red Hat ambassador. So she's out there kicking doors and paving her way. So that's why we wanted to make sure we got her on here so she could speak. I would like to apologize for anybody that didn't get the email in time. I am a little new to WebEx. So I assumed if you put the email in who's invited, it would automatically send that the link to them. Lesson learned there. If we're not breaking stuff, we're not learning it, right? So I've learned. I've already made modifications to make sure that everybody has that link to get in next time. Noreen and Bryan, I'd like to thank you very much for being here and presenting and giving us some of your knowledge and letting everybody know what's up.
Awesome. Glad to be
Absolutely.
here.
Thanks so
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I heard Noreen, somebody else was speaking.
That was me. That was Bryan. Thank you again.
All right. No worries. Anytime you want to come back, let me know.
Will do.
All right. Nia, do you have anything for the group as the president of the chapter?
You still here?
I see her. All righty. Anybody from the group have any questions that we might answer?
I mean, it's career or job related, if that's all right.
Well, we got a career advisor online, so go for it.
Yeah. So, like I said, Maurice. I'm supporting like a contract role for the government for the EPA right now. But I literally just finished my master's program online last night. I turned in my last assignment.
Oh, congratulations!
Thank you. I really want to figure out how to parlay that into maybe a role in either DoD or like a .mil situation. I'm not sure where to start.
Yeah, we can definitely talk further. I work with a lot of different companies in Raleigh and Fort Bragg. I'm not sure if you've heard my spiel earlier, but we can definitely talk a little bit further. I did put my email in the chat if you wanted to. Yeah, I put it in there at 6:01. So if you can just if you want to just reach out to me there, we can definitely talk about some opportunities and kind of next steps for you.
Awesome.
Bryan, I don't think I saw your email on here.
I'll put it back in there.
Yeah, I'm looking now. I don't see it.
Yeah, he put it at 6:01.
There it is. I just sent it again.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Awesome.
All righty.
Yes, sir. Looking forward to it.
All righty. Anybody else have any more questions for Noureen or Bryan? All right. Well, I would like to thank everybody for joining us on this meeting. We did have a rocky start there, and thanks for hanging in with us. So till next time, have a good day, good night, and a great weekend.
All right.
You
Thanks,
too.
everyone.
Thank you.